to a close, just stay on so that we can wrap up a few things with you at the end before we let you go for the rest of the day, and you can go have a beer, your wine or drink, and dinner.
There we go.
Perfect. Sounds great. I like the free flow. So
okay. All right. And oh my God, I think I had a stroke. It's the pollen. I have like questions, they're gone. Questions, they're gone.
What else?
I don't know. What
Do
else?
Do you have a clue?
I don't.
Do the segment.
I need a
pause for the.
Yeah, we're gonna introduce you and the show. Then we're gonna.
No. It's witty banter.
Witty banter.
Pause real quick so we have a slot for our sponsors.
Yes.
Then we get to our guests.
Yes.
How long have you been doing this? How much vodka did you put in that?
It's the pollen. I'm telling you, my joints even hurt. Like my body's like screaming right now. They can't. It's not my sinuses.
Joints,
it's my joints.
They don't hurt after I have a joint. Anyway. We're not talking about that. Anyway, I don't know. Are we? Do you have any other questions?
That's my question.
Before we get started.
Your question was, do we have questions?
Yes,
nope, I'm good. I'm all for the free flow conversation. That's how I do all my, anytime I'm interviewing people. So I like it.
Okay,
cool.
Awesome.
Well, I'm going to hit record.
You do that shit.
Ready? You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, Jesus. You got me laughing. All right, get it together. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Folks, welcome to Toasting the Business. Lynn?
Yes, dear.
I guess the pollen's been getting to you.
Woo!
If you ever want to watch the show, it's on YouTube, and we usually start recording the video before we hit record for the podcast episode.
Yeah.
And Lynn is a little foggy-minded because of the billion particles of pollen per cubic inch that are flying around out there today.
Yeah.
It's insane. That's why my voice is like this, all scratchy.
You're driving down the road, you look up in the sky, you're like, why does that look so foggy and hazy? Oh, that's the pollen from the pine trees.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is. But a couple of weeks ago, we had on a guest who created this wonderful mixer called Fresh Victor. And you and I both got our shipments.
Oh, yes, we did. We did. Oh, man.
So we have it today. We brought it to the studio. We were texting each other. Which one are you going to bring? Which one are you going to bring? So we brought some of them to try because we both got different ones in a couple different boxes. There's cactus, pear, and pomegranate, pineapple, ginger root, the 3 citrus and mint leaf and lemon sour. And you went with
the pomegranate, cactus, pear, and pomegranate.
And a little vodka.
A lot of vodka from Iceland.
I started with the lemon sour.
And you said it was too sour.
And then Lynn said, you should add some of the pomegranate. So I put a little pomegranate in there.
Is it good?
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes. Good. The pomegranate is the die. That cactus pear pomegranate with bourbon, or actually on the sides, they all have like at least one recipe to make. Follow it. You can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
And you've been drinking them with what?
I've been drinking them with sparkling water while I'm working. Big glass ice, some sparkling water, a little bit of the juice, and the grapefruit salt. It's really good. It's really refreshing. Yeah. It's nice.
On that. Yeah. The grapefruit salt one that you can make the pomelo with.
Yeah, and it doesn't taste salty, but it's very nice. It's very fresh.
That's in my fridge. I didn't bring that one.
Okay, you're on a hot day. I can see how that would be really good.
Anyway,
Fresh Victor is the name of the company.
You can make it with alcohol or make a mocktail.
Yeah.
Or I mean,
all natural,
pressed.
Cold pressed, natural, organic ingredients. So you actually feel kind of healthy having your adult beverage.
It shipped so quick.
It's the
ice pack in there. It was still cold when it got there. And it does need to be refrigerated, but try it out. Fresh Victor. And also we go back and listen to the episode.
Yeah, it was a good episode too. Fascinating.
Lots of fun. Anyway, now that we've talked about that and like pitched one of the people on the show almost like an infomercial kind of thing.
I know.
Why don't we take a minute and listen to our other sponsors? We got good sponsors, don't we?
They're awesome.
We got a great guest too. Well, I hope I'm foreshadowing. I could be wrong.
No.
Just
That's
be a
not
lame duck
fair.
that's like,
That's not
hi,
fair.
guys, I'm on the show. It's so good to be. I don't think so.
Your sweaty balls are so good.
What is it that,
Mm.
anyway, I'm not going to go down that path. That's a great
Dusty
one.
muffins. Mm.
Love it. SNL, folks, go back and watch
Yeah.
SNL,
Yeah.
Sweaty Balls and
Mhm.
Dusty Muffins.
Dusty muffins, yeah.
So good. But enough of that.
Yes,
We have Craig Dacy waiting here to talk to us.
I know.
Should we say hi, Craig?
Hey, Craig.
Hey, y'all, how we doing?
Good,
Good.
Or
good.
should I say, hey guys, thanks for having me on the show. This is
Yeah.
great.
You really mellow.
So do you have a sweaty balls, Craig? No.
Wow, cool. No.
I love that era of SNL though. Yes,
Oh.
that's a classic.
I just cry laughing when I see
So
this.
good.
Yeah, they're so good. So you're calling us from Austin.
Austin, Texas. That's right.
All right. And tell us what you do, what the name of your company is, and what your goal is with your company and how you want to influence people.
Yeah, you got it. So I'm the owner of Dacy Financial Coaching, and we our mission really is to make money management simple, whether it's in your business or in your personal finances. We find that too often it's overcomplicated. We know money's tied into our lives, everything, and so really finding a way that we can empower people to feel more in control with their finances and feel like they have their own system and their own way of doing things and their own vision.
Oh, that's great.
I
Because
like
it can
that.
be so intimidating, especially when you're just starting out in your
Mm.
career and you're like, what's a 401k? What's an HSA? Do I need life insurance? But seriously, I mean, yeah.
Life versus term. What do I need for a policy?
Right.
Why does it benefit me either way?
Mhm. Yeah.
Different things. What
Mm.
what was the antithesis of this whole venture for you?
Yeah, I my background is in education. I taught elementary school for almost a decade, and during that time, I just was kind of going through my own money story and our own personal finances. We were trying to figure it out and getting out of debt and realizing we were constantly living paycheck to paycheck. And it was in kind of finding our way and creating our own methodology. We heard all these different people saying, here's what you have to do, here's what you have to do. But it wasn't until we figured out our balance that I fell in love with it. And then I finally was like, I have to get out of this elementary school classroom before I go crazy. And so I was like, what if I take my love for teaching, mesh it with my love for finance? And from there, just started helping individuals on their personal finances, helping them recreate their money story. I fell in love with the business side. I've always been kind of a little bit of a serial entrepreneur, whether it's music or a bunch of different things. And so we saw hand in hand how business finances can affect personal and vice versa. And so now we work with both businesses and the individuals on making sure the whole picture financially is working and really, like I said, they go hand in hand. So if the business is suffering, personal side suffers and vice versa.
Right.
Mhm.
And I like how you just said how people want to tell their financial story, because everybody has completely different goals in life, things they want to do, things they would like, forget it, I don't need money for that. I know when we were starting out, all we knew is we knew we needed to save. We didn't have a lot of money, but we had some assets. It was so intimidating. We're like, what are you talking about? Explain, break down the acronyms. Why do I need this? And you didn't know what you didn't know. And you didn't know how to ask the question to get a result that was satisfactory to your understanding. So I've also heard, on another note, one of the best career paths for a teacher is to go into some sort of financial literacy type of job, because it's a teaching approach to helping people understand all the ins and outs.
That makes sense because, as teachers, it's our job to take complicated ideas and put them into simple terms and layman's terms, ways people can understand. And with finance, like you were just saying, there's so many acronyms. There's, the HOAs or HSAs. There's also HOAs and 401k. No one likes those either. But then on the business side, no one knows how to read a cash flow statement. We're all pretending like we know what those things mean, but no one really knows. And it's almost like business owners are embarrassed or afraid to admit that they don't know how to read accounting documents. And it's because no one's taking those accounting ideas and explaining them in ways that's like in their language.
Sure. Do you have a question? You looked at me like you're
I'm
like,
listening.
Yeah.
I have so many
You have
things.
so many
that-
questions.
oh, there-
so you went from teaching. How did you build your knowledge on the financial side of things? Did you go back to school? Did you take some extra courses? Like, how did that work for you?
Yeah, so it was I went to Commute University, you know, in the car driving back and forth from teaching, just listening to podcasts and
Mhm.
audiobooks and learning that way. I knew pretty early on as I was going through, I was like, you know, I don't want to be, because I looked into becoming a financial advisor and helping with the investment side. And I was like, really, my passion is people and how they engage with their money, not so much in the managing portfolios or filing taxes or any of those. It's, I want to work with people and their relationship with money. And so that's kind of where I started engaging and learning. And then on the side, I was teaching during the day, and maybe during conference periods in the afternoon, I was taking calls with clients or doing marketing and picking up clients. And so for about a year, I did both until I was able to get enough clients in my caseload to make that transition out.
How long have you been doing this then? Since teaching?
Almost 9 years. So actually 9 years as of March. So this month. Yep.
Great. That's awesome.
Well, that's one of the biggest problems, like with couples, one of the things that they fight about most is finances, you know, and you go back and forth, and it's like, from little things like, I thought you paid that bill, or why, who pays this and who pays that? And it's like, you're a couple now, you're together. Maybe you should put things in a joint account and then you have your, I don't know, you may recommend different things. That's what we can talk about, all this.
Yes.
Then go back to the simple stuff like the envelope method.
Yeah.
You remember that? Yeah. I don't know if do you teach people about that? Like,
we did, and lately it's hard to do envelope anymore just because everything's online. You know, you're doing your grocery orders online, Amazon, Target, and so we teach kind of a version of that, which just includes multiple bank accounts. And so it's basically the envelope system, but having multiple checking accounts for each core area you're really trying to monitor and keep an eye on.
Interesting. My motto was, hey, if we don't have it, we can't spend it. So
that's a good motto.
There were a couple times that happened, you know, it was interesting.
well, you mentioned that multiple bank accounts, and Mike McAllowitz says the same thing. Then it gets confusing because you go through and it's like, I need at least a minimum of what, five bank accounts. And hypothetically, you should have about 8. And you explain why that is. And because from a business and a personal side, tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're certified profit first firm as well. So we are connected with Mike McAllowitz, who you're mentioning right now. And so it's all about behavior. And that's kind of what we're talking about with, you know, you're going from this overcomplicatedness. So we're speaking specifically about business. Like I said, there's profit and loss statements and cash flow statements. And sure, we can pretend to look at them, but truthfully, what we're doing when we're making a money decision is we're just looking at our bank account. How much do we have in our business checking account? But if you just have one checking account, you've got your operating expenses, you got your payroll, you got your salary, you got taxes all lumped in there. And so what can happen is you just think you have money, and then the tax bill comes or payroll comes. You've been spending like you have money, and then all of a sudden you've gotten yourself in a pickle. And so by dividing it out, it really is giving you clarity. So when you go to pay an invoice, you look and you're like, how much do I have in my operating expense account? Can I afford to do that? How much do I have in my salary? I'm going to cut myself a paycheck. How much do I have in my owner's pay account? So it can provide some clarity. To your point, you're saying like all those accounts can sometimes feel confusing or overwhelming, but once you get it going, it actually makes things so much simpler.
I do it. I do it.
Do you do it that way?
Yeah.
How many accounts do you have? 7, really?
At least.
Huh.
Yeah, because I believe save first, and it's save and taxes.
Yeah.
So the first thing every time I get paid, that's what, boom, it goes right there
to the tax
it
accounts.
goes tax account and my savings.
Okay.
Or tax account and my investment, you know,
Sure.
401k and stuff like that.
That's complicated.
And then it's everything else comes off of that. And then the expenses come out of a different account.
Yeah.
But you know, I have multiple businesses
Yeah,
too, so
you do.
I have other accounts for those businesses as well.
Sure,
So,
yeah.
and then I have my personal ones, and I have like certain things that I specifically pay for, like household expenses. This is coming for this account or two accounts are strictly for the house, and
Right.
that is
That's
it.
it. Okay.
Like, here's the mortgage, here's my property taxes,
Mhm.
insurance, and then there's a savings part of that
Yeah.
for any large, future expenses like shit, the air conditioner just broke.
Oh, I hate
No,
it.
it doesn't.
Yeah, don't even say it. Yeah.
But, in saving for that, because if and when something like that should occur,
Right.
the money's there.
Emergency stash.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know, am I doing it right?
100%. Well, and the beauty is if it's working for you, you're doing it right. And that's where big believers that's the empowerment, and you get to own your own money journey, your own story, and you find a system that works. So when we're working with people, it's not, here's the 5 accounts that you have to have. It's let's get a few of these accounts, and then if it makes sense to have extras, let's get you some more. Some people like to have a bunch. They want to have an account just for payroll, or they want to have an account just for sales tax and different things. And so the more that, it's really what makes sense to you. So you're spot on. You're nailing it on all accounts, every business, personal side. It sounds like you got it down to a T.
Nice.
He is great customer.
Yeah, I know. He's
So
validating you.
complimentary.
Validating your decisions.
What do you find, like, people who come to you, what's the youngest, most consistent? I don't know. At what age do you find people start approaching you? Are they in their like early 20s, late 20s? Like, hey, I got my first real job. I'm doing like that. Where's that entry point for you, that young client?
Yeah, our main demographic is probably from 30 to 50. So just in that realm of, they're probably maybe have been in their career. So on the personal side, they've been in their career for a little bit. They're starting their family, and now they're looking down, and all of a sudden, when you're in your 20s, it feels like you have all the time in the world to start investing or start saving or start getting it together. And then all of a sudden, when you hit your 30s, I think there's just something financially like, I'm going to retire at some point. Like, that's not this like distant thought in my head. It's going to happen. So that's most of the people we're meeting with. Now, we do have a lot of people in their 20s, and then we have people beyond that. But I would say that realm, and even in the business owners as well, that's typically who we're seeing coming through our doors.
How many times a day do you say the magic of compound interest?
It's a lot. I would love to say it a lot more, to be honest. But yeah, a lot of times when people are coming to us, it's like, we got to clean this up so that we can take advantage of that magic of compound interest. But you're right. It's the sooner you start, the way better off you are. But also, it just depends on who's coming in our door, because some people are coming in with the shame that they haven't started earlier. So the last thing they want us to do is beat them over the head with, you should have started 10 years ago. Imagine how much money you would have had.
It's like when you go see the doctor. Well, if you hadn't been smoking 10 packs a day for the last 10 years, we wouldn't be having this discussion.
Right.
Yeah.
The magic of compound.
Yeah.
But if they're not feeling the urgency yet, maybe they're just like, it's fine. That's kind of like when you're like, all right, let's get this compound interest and the power of it, because you need to get it in gear. The sooner the better. So it just depends on the person.
Yeah. So do you have more business clients or personal clients, or is it equally as many for both?
We're at about an even split right now. So I would say about 50, pretty close to 50-50 on the business and personal. And then a lot of our business owners will come in and work with one of our, we call them profit coaches. So they'll work with one of our profit coaches, and then they might start working with one of our personal finance coaches as well, in tandem with what they're doing. And so simply because, once we get that, we like to get the business kind of organized and working first, so that it can pay you a good paycheck. And then we'll start working on using that money to change your personal story. But usually, like I said, if one's a mess, the other one's a mess. So they both need some help.
Right. Do you charge like a percentage of their income? Like how do you charge people? That's like always the next question. Okay, I got to save money, but I don't want to spend money because I got to save it. So that's always an issue. How do you approach that?
You're 100% right. It's like, so I'm supposed to pay you to save money. How does that make sense? So we are, depending on the size of the business, will depend on our rate. We do our best to keep the investment like under 5% of their annual revenue is our main focus. Now, if they're a really small business, that's harder to do. But we don't want it to be a hindrance in their cash flow, because you're right. They're coming to us usually with cash flow problems. And then if we're adding this big expense onto it, that that just adds sometimes to the problem, at least temporarily. Now, if they can make it work, we're going to get that ship turned around pretty quickly, and then they're going to start to see that ROI. But we try to price it in a way that fits into their budget so they can actually do it.
Okay. Are you just working with people in Austin? Or are you working with people across the United States?
All over the U.S. We have very few in Austin, actually.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So I used to have an office away from the house, and I stopped using it because we just didn't have very many people who were local. I was doing video calls from an office, and I was like, I think I'm going to go back to the house.
Yeah. Save some money. Save some money. Yeah.
Look at that.
The rent.
Big
Yeah.
savings.
That is big savings. Yeah.
But I do miss having a separate office. I really do. I liked having a different place to go to. I kept it for longer than I thought I would have. One of my business coaches, he was like, "Did your business grow while you have it?" He's like, "Keep it." Eventually it was just one of those. I was like, all right, I found myself not going to it as often. I was just staying home most of the time. And so it was time to let it go.
Just buy a tough shed, put it in the backyard, AC in there and electric, you're fine. Then you have an office to go to.
Yeah.
Darren, I'm looking at those all the time. There's in Austin, there's a company called Backyard Pods that makes these where they pour the foundation. There's this backyard, little 200 square foot building. I'm like, man, I want one of those. so you're not far off. That's exactly right.
What do you find the biggest, like, what is the most common, I don't know, not mistake, I don't want to call it that, but when you're working with a business, you're going through their books, you're looking at stuff, and it's like, and once again, here it is, here's that albatross that's holding you back.
And it's not just one business, it's kind of like a theme that goes across a bunch of businesses.
Yeah, like, it's you spend too much in marketing, or did you really deserve the bonus? I don't know. What's the biggest?
Yeah, honestly, the biggest problem that we see is business owners aren't paying themselves enough, not paying themselves consistently. We say you quit your 9 to 5 to start this business, usually for 2 reasons. It's one, I want more money, or I want more time. And then all of a sudden you're looking down, you're like, I am working way more hours than I was before, and I'm hardly making anything. And when I am making something, it's like a little bit here, a little bit there. I might dip my hand into the business, if I need to pay a bill. That's honestly the biggest problem that we see across the board. When most business owners come to us, they usually say, I feel underpaid, or I don't always get to take a paycheck, or if I do, it just fluctuates. And so we really work hard to correct that.
Pay yourself first.
Yeah.
That's right. Now, sometimes you have to reduce expenses to do that, because you're right. Maybe they're not paying themselves because they're spending 90% on operating expenses. And so we have to dig into that. But we always say, especially with the dipping your hand into the business, I'm like, I use the analogy of if you went and interviewed to become the CEO of a company, and in that interview, they're like, Craig, I think you're perfect for the job. And I'm like, awesome. What does it pay? And they're like, oh, there's no salary. Just when you need money, just let us know. When rent is due, we'll give you enough to cover that bill. Like, you would never accept that job. And so it's that idea of treating yourself with the same amount of respect you would demand from someone else. It's give yourself a consistent paycheck on a consistent rhythm.
I like that. Treat yourself like you would. Yes, that's great. Because I think as a business owner, you're like, I gotta put something else into an online platform that I need to do my job, and here, there, everywhere, and So how are you finding your clients? Is it word of mouth? Are you doing any active advertising? How do you go about getting the clients you have?
Yeah, I've always been big into content creation. And so most of our clients are coming to us either through podcasts or YouTube or webinars that we're doing, blogging, website traffic. So that's a large of it. Is just a lot of organic online is our main focus.
Yeah.
We do get some people who maybe read the Profit First book from Mike, and they go to the website to find a Profit First coach. And so we'll get people connected through that. But largely it's just organic content creation.
Yeah, and that's usually the best kind, because it puts you as a subject matter expert. So
especially if you can make it a little tongue in cheek.
Right.
That'd be really fun.
Mm-hmm.
I still have a company they just want me to pay them with a check.
Oh, like a paper check.
Well, there's 2 companies that I still write. Finally, one of them went and got a company, or a payment solution,
okay,
so I could do it online, and they don't charge me extra, like, well, it's like, I don't know, whatever it is, 3.2%,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
of whatever the bill is. But another one, they're like, no, if we do that, it's like 6-7%.
Oh,
Like, you're
geez.
getting ripped off.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You find a new solution.
right.
So they're like, checks are fine. So for 6 years, over 6 years, I've been writing them a check every month.
Gonna go find the checkbook, dust it off,
I have
find a pen.
No. Find an envelope, find a stamp.
that costs what, 60 whatever cents it costs now. It's ridiculous. Yeah,
Forever
yeah.
stamps and I'm good. But yeah.
What's funny is on their end, the amount of energy and manpower they're probably putting into chasing after people who are not good about sending in the check on time, probably counterbalances what they would spend in fees on just auto charging or letting somebody pay with a credit card or a debit card online.
Yeah.
It's insane.
That is insane. That's like when I go to the grocery store and I see somebody writing a check. I'm like, no, it means I'm going to be here forever waiting for you to sign the check.
Could you please buy your driver's license? Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, I saw a guy doing that at the liquor store one day.
Oh, wow. The liquor store.
He needed his beer.
Yeah.
So you mentioned podcast. You have a podcast?
I do. We our podcast is called the Therapy Business Podcast. So we target our main niche demographic is therapy practices, group therapy practices, and so that's we work with all types of businesses, but that seems to be the one that we've worked with a lot of them, and we've just gotten to know that industry really, really well. And so, now we have a podcast that really speaks into helping them grow their business and manage the big hills and valleys that come along with growing from just solo therapist into group practice.
That's cool. That's really cool. Huh. So when you work with your businesses, obviously you have something like a discovery meeting. What do you ask them to bring with them? Because it could be huge, a huge pile of paper that makes no sense, or it could be all on a tablet. Like, how do you approach this?
Yeah. So the initial discovery or even consultation, we try to reduce that barrier as much as possible, because I know a lot of times the amount of overwhelm they had to push through to even submit and get on our calendar was probably huge for them. A lot of times we get people scheduling late at night, and that means they were probably up stressing about finances, and that's what led them to Google search, find us, and schedule. So we are very big on this is conversational. Come in, we can deal with ballpark numbers. We will ask some questions about numbers, but largely it's, what are your pain points? What are you struggling with? What are the bigger pictures, and what do you want out of your business? What do you wish it was doing for you? Because when it comes to the numbers, once we get the numbers in, we can dissect that, and we will, when they sign up with us, we'll get access to their books, or they can upload documents, and we will decode that and help them figure out what the financial health of their business is now. But kind of as they're in that discovery phase, we don't want to overwhelm them. Odds are numbers is not their cup of tea. And so if we're bombarding them with, you need to collect all your bank statements and all of this and this and this before you even talk to us, we're going to lose them.
Yeah.
Do you find that with a lot of these businesses, I'm assuming on a discovery call or within the first couple of calls, do you have a bookkeeper? Do you have a bookkeeping company, or do you have a department who handles that for you? And do you have an account? I mean, and how many folks say no?
It depends on the size of the business, I'll say, because I think at some point, when you reach a certain number, and maybe it's 250,000. Honestly, I think when you hit 100,000, you should probably have a bookkeeper, because at that point, it's maybe when it's under that, you can manage the bookkeeping on your own. You probably should still have somebody else, because it's just, I did my own books for a long time and I wasn't doing them correctly, because it's not my forte either. So all that to say, not many, but as we get up to those bigger businesses, they will have bookkeepers, which makes it 1,000 times easier for us. We can still work with somebody if they come to us with no books. We're going to take what data we can, whether it's through bank statements, whether it's just through having them help list out their monthly expenses, and we'll go from there. But if they have clean books, that's going to give us a more accurate starting point for where their business is today.
That was one of the best pieces of advice that I got early on, was you need a bookkeeper. Just get one. You will. We talk about the $5, $50, and $500 task, and they're like, why are you wasting all your time doing your own books with this? I got a bookkeeper, and it was,
Game changer.
Holy cow, so much off my shoulders.
Yeah.
I was able to go do everything else. Because when you, like, you know, when you get into it, it's okay, I have all my utilities and stuff, and they go in this column. And then what about these expenses? And
Where
you
do
have
they
for
go?
Mark, well, I don't know. And then, you know, the accountant at the end of the year is like, the hell are you doing?
Mhm.
I'm like, well, I did. Okay. Well, now we're going to charge you $1,200 to do a cleanup so we can get everything in the right place.
Mhm.
If you had a book, I'm like, yep.
100%.
So,
Yep, you're not wrong. And even this year we started we added bookkeeping to our services for our clients simply because like it'll help both sides. We can coach you better if we know your numbers really well and we can make sure that the books are clean and updated. I don't do them myself because again, that would you don't want me individually doing your books, but we have people who that's their bread and butter and they know it super well.
I got that. Are you, oh, excuse me. Do you know much about the fire community?
I do enough to be dangerous, but I'm aware of it, and I know we have a lot of clients who will come in and that they're passionate about it, and so we wrap that into their coaching because again, it's their journey, so we want to make sure they're bought in.
Okay.
What is a fire community? I've never heard of this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's financial independence for I forget what the second half is, but
Retire early, right? I think it's
Retire
retire early.
financial independence, retire early, and
Okay.
there's this huge, it's a large community out there of
Mhm.
folks from all over, and that's what's funny though is a lot of people that I've talked to in that community, they all there's a theme in there. Like back in 2008, they're like, yeah, back in 08, no, when the stock market, or you know, when everything crashed and housing went down, they're like, I bought all these distressed houses for like next to nothing, and then boom, and you hear that they kept it for a while and waited and sold it, and it's like that's how they made
The money.
drastic gains. But
Yeah.
there's a lot of folks who are super serious in that category. Like, talk about paying yourself first or saving first.
Mhm.
Their goal is to retire as early as possible, and they are maximizing every
Really.
retirement account they can, even and investment accounts and everything else. Like they're living by the skin of their
I was
teeth.
gonna say, are they enjoying life in the meantime, or?
Most of them, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I think the idea is to put off a lot of. I mean, I don't think they're living on nothing or not doing anything, but I think that's the idea is we're going to maximize everything and we will have this freedom of time and money early, like in our 40s. But for now, we're not going to be living extravagantly. We're going to be living really modestly while we funnel cash towards the bigger picture.
Right. Fascinating.
It's something.
Mhm.
There's some extremists out there too.
Yeah, they're always
in that
is.
category.
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
some
The one bedroom studio apartment ramen noodle
people
extremists.
it's beyond. It's so much way out there.
Way out there.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and then there's the people who do the inverse where they take time off and they almost do the retirement while they're young, so they don't work, and then they go live life for however long, and then they go and then they work along because they're like, I want to enjoy retirement while I'm young and can enjoy it. But I'm like, well, you also want to work while you're physically able to work.
Yeah, exactly.
Later in life, do you want this cart? Thanks for
So you
coming
can lean
in.
on it.
Thanks for coming into the W Mart. Would you like a cart?
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
got that job.
you got a job.
Oh,
How many people do you have working for you?
I have 3 coaches on my team right now. So we got a small little group. 2 of them are personal finance coaches, and we have 1 profit coach right now.
Okay, and do they went through the same training you did, or how did that work?
Yes. So all of them went through the same certification. So when they join my team, I have them go through that certification with Profit First. And so, they're all trained up on the same methodologies. And then when I was doing personal finance with clients, the second I brought Alicia, our first my first hire on. She took it over, it became her baby while I focused on the profit side.
Okay.
And she revamped it and made it 1,000 times better because she's just, I'm more visionary, pie in the sky, and she's very systems and processes. So she's like, all right, let's take all this stuff you were doing, which was great, and let's make it actual, like something we can repeat and make it really detailed and perfect.
Mhm.
And then when we brought Vanessa in to help with the profit coaching, she did the same thing on the profit side. And so, they went through some other trainings and learnings on their own. We're big on, that's one of our, what we call critical actions, is that we learn. So we're always growing and we're curious, and we're just learning different things and taking different trainings. And so they find stuff, they learn it. And I'm big on collaboration. So I'm definitely not a believer that the way I do it is the right way. So
Yeah.
the fact that it's improved is purely because there's space for people to step in and say, I think we should do it this way. I'm like, great, let's try it. So
Yeah.
you're probably right.
That's awesome. That's
That's
great. I
Good
know
advice.
there's some
Yeah.
people that I worked for in the past that, a long time ago, I wish they would have had the same approach to things, but
You didn't?
no, it was command and control.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never shared that on the podcast episode.
This was like in the
You hear
90s.
the
Yeah,
sarcasm on
sarcasm.
that?
Yeah.
Just saying, anytime you want to jump in, Craig, you can with that one there. That's a slow pitch.
Yeah, I know.
What, over time, since you've started this business for 9 years, what is the biggest thing that what's the biggest change? Like, you came in and you thought, this is the way things are going to be. And over time, from stubbing your toes so many times, you're getting hit over the head with a frying pan. You're like, all right, I get it. We're going to make this change. Like, what was the biggest thing? Was it marketing, people, just the way you approached folks? I don't know.
There's been a few instances that I can think of, and honestly, the first time was hiring a person to begin with. When I started this, my dream was just to be self-employed. I was like, I just want to be able to go to Target on a Tuesday at 10:30 in the morning without being stuck in a classroom. Like, just a very small, simple goal. That's what I was dreaming of when I was teaching, was being able to be out and about on a weekday. So when it came to, I put off hiring for so long because I was anxious about hiring the wrong person, about somebody stepping in and representing my brand, all these different things. And finally, when I did hire Alicia, who, like I said, is amazing, I was like, man, I should have done this a long time ago, because it was the way my business grew once she stepped in and then the other people stepped in. That was big. And then even in that process of hiring people, we teach finance because it's what I struggle with too. Like, I can relate to my clients. I always say, like, for therapists, I'm like, if somebody's dealing with depression, you probably want your therapist to also deal with depression, so they kind of know what you're going through and they can empathize. And that's us too. Like, I'm struggling with finances. It's always a battle because I'm always wanting to impulse buy when money's good, or just really tighten up when money's bad. And so that's been a learning curve for me, as well as we've been adding people in, and my client load has dropped, and it's passing it off to these other people who I'm paying. You're like, okay, revenue is growing at a certain pace, but expenses are growing a little bit faster because payroll's growing a little faster. And so having to take on clients of my own again, and just, walking through that trudge of the roller coaster of profitability. You wish it was just this straight line, everything grows all the time, but it's not. You're going to have big years, you're going to have down years, and just navigating that has been humbling, and I'm still learning as I go.
Sure. That's a good thing, because if you stop learning, what are you doing, right? If you haven't learned anything new in the last week or the last month, what's your future look like? Are you don't want to learn? Is that where, philosophically speaking, it's like, I don't want to learn, so don't tell me anything.
Totally. Yeah. Well, constantly learning, constantly being open to it. Money is so emotional. It's funny that there's so many things that are tied to in our businesses, specifically like pride. There's all these things. And so at some point I have to stop and go, if I was my client, what would I be telling myself to do? Would I be like, and so I did that in the fall, and I'm like, there's some of these expenses that just have to go. And there's some things that have to change that maybe I was holding on to for too long, thinking, we'll get through this and then we'll be fine. I don't need to change anything. And just learning, again, like, it's easy. It helps me empathize with what clients are going through even more, because that's the struggle. It may be right in front of our face, but even though this is what we do every day, I don't always see it in my own business or in my own life.
Sure. So from your point of view as an individual, spending money, making money, business aside, what, in your opinion, is are expenses that people tend to unnecessarily spend too much in that area? Like what would it be?
Pizza.
Darren just said pizza, but
Pizza,
I
right?
digress. Like, it's just kind of like, really, do you really want to do that to yourself and keep spending those that way? What would it be?
Yeah, he's not wrong, especially on the personal side. It's restaurants is the biggest one.
Mhm.
You know, I always say with money, our natural tendency is to be reactive. That's just how we are. We react, and then later we look down and we're frustrated with kind of the results. And so with going out to eat, people are always shocked to see how much they've been spending on restaurants. It never feels like that much, but it's just nickel and dime drive-throughs that eat us up. And you know, we're big on your bank statement should reflect you and your values and your priorities. If I looked at your bank account, I should be able to say, this is exactly what you love and what you like to do. And
Okay.
a lot of people, it's like, oh, you must really value Taco Bell, because I'm seeing a whole lot of that in here. And if you do, if that's if that's one of your core values, then perfect. Right. You're in sync. But most of the time it's like, oh no, yeah, we are. No wonder we don't have money to go on trips or to do the things we really want to do. It's because we're eating it.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting. Is your bank account, your bank statement should reflect who you are or who you want to be.
Right.
I never thought of it that way. And it's only because I come from the bad old days of you had a checkbook and you wrote it down on a register, and you didn't have the luxury of putting together an Excel spreadsheet to analyze and chart and all those things, all the different categories. But that's really neat. So when you sit down with individuals, do you talk to them about not only what their long-term goals are, but do you say, hey, do you want to leave something to an entity or people after you pass away? And if so, what is it? And how do you fund that? Do you have those kinds of conversations?
We will. Usually it's later on. And so after we've had a chance to help them figure out how can we make our money support who we are and what are our values and how can we use that, then yeah, there's a great book out there. I can't think of who the author is, but well, I don't even know if there is an author, but it's a workbook. It's called I'm Dead, Now What? And it's so it goes through so many different things and questions and those things that people just don't want to ask. They might have a will, but they haven't quite gone through some of the logistics. And, you know, even in there's one of my favorites is like, going outside of money, like my kids, you know, not only who gets the kids, but it's like, how does my kid receive love, and how do they receive comfort? And what are those things that maybe somebody stepping in to become their parent would know? And in the business side, like, who's going to let my clients know that I'm gone? You know, who's going to do those things that maybe we often overlook because we're so busy on the day-to-day and we don't think about that next step. Like, if I'm gone, what happens to the business?
Sure. Oh, that's interesting. Never thought of that one either. You know, how do you tell people that person's gone? Yeah. What is the most emotionally triggering thing for people to discuss, both on a personal side or the business side?
The pizza fund.
The pizza fund. He did say restaurants is, going out is super expensive. But you know, like, do you have these very uncomfortable discussions that trigger, you know, some heavy emotions when you're talking to people?
Yeah, I think the biggest one would be when you have spouses both on a call, and it can vary based on what the topic is, but usually there could be a lot of contention, and it's usually just differing opinions. One of them thinks that the other spouse is spending everything and blowing through everything, and they're just not in sync. There's a lot of times a couple will come to us, and one of them is, this was clearly their idea and they wanted to do this, and the other one is, you know, in the back with their, I'm gonna say his, it's usually the male with their arms crossed, like, who's this joker who's going to tell me how to manage my money? But those are also my favorite ones, to see that transformation. We've had some where that's how they are on the first call, and then every call they slowly get closer. I've had it where it's like somebody's like half in frame during the whole call. They're like just off to the side. You can't even see their face. And then 3 calls in, now they're nudged in and they're taking notes and they're just bought in. So but that's honestly veering away from your original question. It's anything that relates to spouses can a lot of times be touchy ground. And sometimes once in a while we have to have that conversation, and maybe this isn't the right time to be focusing on finances, because there's probably something deeper rooted with communication that you need to solve before we can. We're solving something that's not even the problem. We're putting a Band-Aid on a open wound, and that's not going to work.
Yeah, or there's like a slush fund somewhere that one of them has that the other one doesn't know about.
Mm.
Mad money.
Yeah, they don't want to, all this money's coming in and all of a
Where's it
sudden,
going?
it's not, there should be. Had that with the company I worked with.
Oh, wow.
There should be a partner in the company and found out in the end where that money was going.
Oh, no.
And then I got voted out of the company.
Oh, you're voluntold to leave?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Kicked the hornet's nest.
Ew.
Like,
You're out.
caused contention. Well, too bad. Obviously, if this is the way you want to treat your partners, then I guess I don't want to be there.
No.
Do you find that you're talking about like discretionary spending and how people spend money in different ways? I used to find this with my employees, and it was, oh, I need a raise. And it's like, wait a second, well, you're making decent money.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I see happen every day. You come into work, your first break, you go down to the cafeteria and you buy breakfast. Then at lunch, you go out for lunch every day, 5 days a week. And it's like, so let's take this into consideration. Say we spent $5 on a cheap breakfast and $10 on an inexpensive lunch. That's $15 a day, 5 days a week. That's $75. That's $300 a month. That's $3,600 a year.
There's a raise right there.
Yep.
If you would just learn to and so there's that, and then you talk about savings. And I used to explain to people, you're young, you're doing this. Are you contributing enough, especially when you work for a company who, they're matching you with, and that's free money right there. But you go through it, and I used to work for one organization where we were not just, we had a 401k, but we also had a second one because of the way we were.
Whoa.
So we could have, and I can't think of what it was, not the teacher account, but it was a different one. And so you can maximize, it's like double dipping. It's like, I can contribute $5,000 a year in this one and another 3 or 4 or 5,000 in this account. Why would you not try to maximize that on both of those? But the matching part is a big darn deal, that free money. And when I run the numbers with them, it's like, if you put this money in, it reduces your net income. And you're actually, when you look at it, your paycheck that you're taking home is almost the same. Do you have those conversations with folks?
We do, yeah. And it's so much easier. I think people just don't know. I'm like, if you would just sign up for your 401k, that with the day you get your job, before you ever get a first paycheck, you'll never know what. It's harder whenever you're like, all right, go sign up, and now you're going to get a pay cut of a few hundred pay cut. You're going to be taking home a little bit less every paycheck. But yeah, it's take advantage of those matches, because it's huge. And then even going back to what you originally were asking with the spending money at work on the food.
Yeah.
And so many companies who have their own, cafeteria that's in the building, where it just, you swipe your badge and it just gets deducted from your paycheck. That's even worse, because
oh my God.
There's no, you don't see it on your bank. It's so easy to just get caught up in that and overspend it. We've seen that as a point of contention a lot with spouses, to where one couple, like the husband it was decided he wouldn't take a debit card or credit card with him to work anymore. He would keep cash in his glove box in case he had an emergency and needed gas or needed something. But because he was going out to eat every single day, not just at the cafeteria, but he was going to spend $50 to $70 a day on lunch. She didn't have she had no idea about it. She just knew the bank, they never had money. And so it was just one of those ahas that, I guess we would call financial infidelity, where you're doing something on the side with the finances and your spouse has no idea. And that's super common.
Wow.
Financial infidelity. I like that
I
word.
get it. I get it. Or it's called walking around money or mad money, whatever it is, you know.
Somebody's mad about that money not leaving the bank account.
Yeah.
That's what
It's so
that
much fun.
Yes.
You.
Which walking around money's not bad. You know, we always say with spouses, I'm like, and my wife and I do this, we have our joint checking account and then we each have our own private checking accounts. And every month we move a little bit of money to each one so that we have the freedom. If an Amazon package shows up on the door,
Yeah.
I'm not like, what did you buy? And this wasn't, it's her money to spend, and same with me. And so I bought a purple pillow. I don't know if you've seen those. They're stupid.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
amazing.
Are they?
They're stupid expensive, but they're worth it. And my wife was like, I would never spend more than $200 on a pillow. I was like, well, I did. And
I'm sleeping great.
Exactly. So she's like, cool, that's your money. Do what you want with it. So it's super healthy in that aspect.
That is a really good thing to do, especially when it comes to, because now you can buy gifts too for your spouse,
and
right? And they don't
know.
see that.
Yes.
They're like,
Exactly.
what did you spend that for?
That's exactly right. Yep. That's when we buy each other gifts. I can still take her on dates and I can pay if I want to. It's not always coming out of our joint account. And so there's a lot of great things about being able to do that. Birthday gifts to each other we pay for out of our own personal fund money. And so yeah, and it's all decided. So it's nothing secretive. It's just we agree each of us gets X amount into our account. She's an incredible saver. So hers just piles and piles up, and she's got hundreds, and I tend to burn through mine before the month is over. But yeah, it's been really great for us. And so we usually recommend couples do it in their finances.
It's a great way to do it.
You mentioned having that emergency fund as well. Somebody did, like in the car, right? There's a spot, and I have one.
Where is it? So I break into your car.
I have one in the car. You got to find it. But I think that's a good thing to have. Like all of a sudden you show up somewhere and you're like, shoot, I left my wallet at home. I need that. Or, living in Atlanta, valet all the time, right?
Oh, you never know how to pay for anything in
I keep
Atlanta.
a ton of fives in there just for, because I don't carry cash.
Yeah, I don't know.
And I forget. So I'm like, oh, valet. Let me crack into that account. And usually, normally there's a couple $100 in there. Just because, do you recommend that as well, the emergency money? And then the other question is a rainy day fund.
So yeah, we're big on the rainy day fund for sure. Having cash stashed just depends, I guess, on the person and what they're dealing with. So for someone like you're talking about needing cash in pickles. It's like, yeah, stick some money in your car. I don't. And actually, as you're talking about that, I was like, I wish I did, because last weekend we went to see a buddy of mine, his band play, and they had a tip jar out. And I'm going, well, I never carry cash. I wish if I had something in the car, I would have gone and thrown something in their bucket. But bigger, like the rainy day fund, for sure. It's having some kind of funds. I was just looking at the statistics because I did a webinar this morning that it's like 32% of Americans have $0 in their savings account, like nothing. They have no money in their savings account. And so you need something at least to help catch those bad months, because your tires are going to pop, something's going to happen. So we need to have some kind of cash so that we don't, otherwise it's going on a credit card and we're just going to get further and further in the hole.
Right. Do you recommend the rule of thumb we've always had is 3 months of our income need to be in savings, just in case one of us loses a job, because we've always operated on, even though both of us were working, we always operated on one income and then tried to save as much as the other. So if one of us lost a job, we'd have 3 months to live on and then also find another job. Is it 3 months, 6 months, 1 month? Don't worry about it. What's your rule of thumb?
Yeah, I think 3 months of income is great, because what we're going to probably do too is 3 months of income covers your current lifestyle. So you could live 3 months without changing anything. But then we like to do 2 budgets. We have a survive and a thrive. So thrive is like, what's our ideal lifestyle where we can go out to eat as much as we want. The kids are in whatever sports programs they want to be in. But then we have that survive budget of everyone lost their jobs. We have no income coming in. What does it cost to just keep us afloat, to keep food on the table and lights on and a roof over our head? And so that said, it'll last you a lot longer, usually probably double, so closer to 6 months if you're cutting back, because we don't want you living extravagantly if no one's making money if something happens.
Right.
What is the biggest way what's your approach to like getting rid of debt? People come in, and especially this year, and God knows what they're going to do with the deregulating everything.
No, I know.
You know, I mean, they've tried to cap different things, and people don't seem to realize that the prime rate, you know, it's based on prime rate, and then it's plus X amount of percentage above that, which is still astronomical. And they nail you, you know, it makes it really hard to dig out of the hole. When you're working with folks who have a lot of debt and they're like, Craig, I need your help. What is what would you recommend for listeners? Like, here's the first thing you should do. You know, which one do you attack first? The one with the biggest balance, the one with the highest interest, and then the smallest balance? I mean, how do you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And to be as elusive as I can possibly be, I'm going to say it depends on the person. And so there's a few ways to give some context. Is debt snowball is kind of the universal method, and that's where you pay it in order from smallest balance to largest, largely because you're going to be able to knock out some of those smaller ones and get a little bit of breathing room in your budget quicker than if you were to try and tackle this $30,000 student loan of yours. But that said, it really can depend. Maybe some people come to us and they have a large sum of cash. They get a bonus at work, and it's like, well, instead of knocking out these small ones, maybe there's one in the middle that will free up even more money every month. Sometimes people come to us and they have this medical debt because they lost a child, and every time they look at this statement that they're getting in the mail, it just makes them relive it. And so regardless of where that is on the list, it's like, let's get that out of here so that you don't have to keep being reminded of these medical expenses that are just so traumatizing. So it all depends, but I think that snowball is usually the general rule of thumb. If somebody's listening, like, I want to start getting out of debt, just attack that smallest one first as best as you can.
And the snowball effect, besides that, when you pay that debt off, you're supposed to take that payment and start applying it on top of what you're paying the next one.
Correct. Yep. You're paying minimum payments on everybody except for that smallest one. You're going to just as aggressively as you can pay it off. And then once it's gone, you'll take that minimum payment from the smallest one and move it to the next smallest. And then you'll pile as much money as you can on that and just kind of get it gone as quickly as you can, and just so on and so on. That's why they call it the snowball, because as you get going, you're going to have more and more cash being just attacking some of those bigger guys, and it'll just start to get some momentum. And then also behaviorally, snowball is great because you get small wins. There's just something about, I paid off the Visa, even if it was $300 on it, it's just a success you got within maybe the first 30 days. And it's like, all right, we did it. Now this next one is 800. Okay, cool. And that one's going to be gone in 4 to 6 weeks. And so it's just, you get these small victories.
Right.
Do you recommend when somebody does it, then there's 2 questions here. So when they do pay off the one, and then you're taking that payment and applying it on top to the next one, do you recommend hey, you know what? Take $10 less out of that and give it to yourself, like as a reward to make you feel good. You know, it's like, oh, yeah, $10 more of personal income. Do you recommend that, or you're just like, just crush this damn thing and get it out of there? You're doing great. Keep going.
Yeah, we are big on rewarding yourself. And so when we're helping somebody, if they decide we're working together, we're like, okay, the snowball makes the most sense, I will usually help plug in milestones, because we want some carrots that we're running toward. Getting out of debt, sure, it's there's nothing sexy or exciting about it. It's not like, oh, I can't wait to make a credit card payment. But if you say, after we pay off this third debt on the list, or maybe after we pay off the first one, we're going to go out to a nice dinner to celebrate. Then after we pay off the third one, we're going to go on a weekend getaway that we've been trying to do. Or maybe we're going to finally replace the washer that we've been wanting to replace. And just have these things that you're looking forward to. It's like, all right, $10,000 more. Once we pay that off, we can finally do this. We're going to do this celebration. And so putting names to it, putting it in the list. And so that as you reach certain milestones, you go celebrate, and then we get back to business.
Take a weekend and go to Austin and listen to some great music and have some barbecue.
Good barbecue. Yeah.
That's right. Come on down to Austin. I'll go to Atlanta, go to a Braves game, and
yeah, well, I can't. They are kicking butt. They did last year. I don't know. Well, season hasn't kicked off yet. So.
Yeah, it starts tomorrow, I think.
Season
starts tomorrow.
It does.
Friday.
Usually,
Yeah.
It always used to be April 1st, but they moved it up.
Just a skosh.
What else you got? I go on.
Oh, do you talk to your clients about their FICO score? and how that can help them if they clean that
Who?
up.
My FIDO score? How many dogs do you have?
I have one.
Oh. FICO.
You're so funny. But how when they clean up their debt, how that can increase their credit score, and then how they're able, especially business owners, borrow what my husband and I call cheap money, to make some things happen. Do you have those discussions too?
We do, and it just depends on where they are. You know, a lot of times if they're coming to us and their credit score is already just in the tank,
Sure.
the process of paying off debt is just going to naturally help boost it up. And so if they are just drowning in debt, the last thing we want to do is start trying to borrow in order to raise that thing up.
Yeah.
But yes, if they're like, okay, we paid off a lot of debt and now we're just, you know, maybe our credit score is not that great. So how can we improve that? Usually just depending on where they're behaviorally, I'm like, so on the personal side, maybe it's just, let's tie some get a credit card and just get some recurring bills, things you can't impulse buy on that we can put on there. So your phone bill, your cable bill, that way it's easy for you to pay it off every month and you're not going to get to the end of the month and realize, whoops, we racked up way too much on here and we can't pay it off. And then once you get more comfortable and you're with your budget, if you want to start putting groceries and other things on there, but it really just depends on the individual and how much they trust themselves, what their past has been like with credit cards, kind of gives that decision of how deep into this do we get.
Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
Well, if you're hanging on to a credit card, like you said, you pay one off and you're still holding on to it and you're like, I'm going to keep it for future reference because you may have a long credit history on that. And by closing it out, your credit score is going to drop. But if you keep it open, the only thing you have to remember, at least, now correct me if I'm wrong, this may have changed, but like every 90 days, you've got to have at least a transaction on there to the credit reporting agency to maintain that credit history. If not, they consider it like it's gone dormant. And all of a sudden, what happened to my credit score?
Yeah.
So it's
Interesting.
Like, go to the store, buy a Pepsi or something on it, or you boost it, fill up your gas tank, and then pay it off immediately.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think credit card points are great. You know, again, if once we've solved the deeper rooted problem of having a plan and engaging in with our money a little bit better, that's why I say, if you want to tie your phone bill and your cable bill and your electric bill to the credit card, so that way you have $500 a month going on it and then you're paying it off. I always say also pay it off at the end of the week. Don't wait till the end of the month. So maybe every Friday, just go on and pay off the balance. That way you're not playing this catch-up game at some point. That's a great way to ease into it, or to just maintain your credit score. And of course, now if you have a mortgage, then your credit score is going to be there whether you're charging on a credit card or not. So really, if you're renting, those are the people who have nothing and they're like, I need to get a credit score so we can get a house to begin with. That's probably a good place to start.
Oh, there's so many more things
I know.
we can talk about with this, because it's like now you bring up mortgages and you go, if you can make one extra payment a year on a 30-year mortgage, one extra payment, you say,
difference.
Send in that check or that payment and you say, apply to principal. You have to tell them that a lot of times. And all of a sudden you go from 30 years and you're like, 23 years. Pay my mortgage up one extra payment or knock it down 3 years. It's like, holy cow. The benefits of other things with having a better credit score is it's a savings that you don't seem to realize. But insurance itself, like people go, I mean, just, you know, you're going to get car insurance or homeowners and it's like, wow, this is what I'm paying. Behind the scenes, they're looking at your credit report. Even though they don't pull it, they have a way to look at it, and that determines your rate. So if you have a better credit score, you have better rates for your insurance.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
If I am saying anything wrong, please call me out on this. No, dude, it doesn't happen.
It's all a lie. Everything he's saying.
So, oh man. All right. So you're an Austin resident. I have to ask you this.
All right.
Do you like wet barbecue or dry better?
I much prefer dry rub barbecue over wet, which I guess, like, so ribs, there's like the St. Louis style, which is all slathered. I much prefer a dry rub. And then I can dip it in barbecue sauce if I want to, but yeah, dry rub all the way.
Chili, with or without beans?
Oh, with beans. Is it even chili if there's no beans in
I
it?
know, that's what I'm
This is not a
saying.
true Texan. Okay, don't tell anybody.
As long as it's super hot, that's all that matters. No, I was born in Kentucky, so
Okay.
they won't even let me claim being a Texan here. I've lived here since I was 5, and they'll still tell me I'm not a true. My wife tells me all the time I'm not a true Texan.
Nice.
Well, I get it. Okay.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
I mean, Kentucky's still in it now. We got the big dance. We got March Madness going on. Are you rooting for Kentucky? Or are you rooting for the Wildcats out there, University of Houston?
Now I'm gonna bring shame to all the Kentuckians out there. I don't even keep up with it. So I'm a diehard baseball fan. There's 162 games a year in baseball.
Yes.
So for the sake of my family, when baseball season's over, I go on a sports hiatus. But I'm about to be back on the clock tomorrow because it's opening day. And so, but yes, I couldn't even tell you who's still in March Madness right now.
Who's your team for baseball?
Braves.
Atlanta Braves all the way.
You are a Braves fan. Okay.
I am.
Kentucky. I thought it just meant like, I'll come to Atlanta and see the game.
Yeah.
I don't blame you. They're good.
I gotta go to a game. I gotta go to a game
At the new
here
stadium.
at the new stadium before it's 100 degrees.
How many parks have you been to?
So that's on my bucket list. I've been working on it slowly. I want to go to every park in the country. I believe I've been to 9 so far. So I'm about a third of the way through.
Nice.
What's your favorite ballpark so far?
Well, I gotta take the bias out for Brave because honestly, the Brave Stadium is really, really nice, but also I just like the nostalgia of it. So I really liked St. Louis. There, we sat behind home plate and the view of the skyline is just amazing. I liked that one a lot. Wrigley's cool just because of the history. I liked Coors Field out in Denver. Just weather there was perfect, and so. There's a lot of them have been really good. My least favorite is Kansas City. Theirs was just kind of lackluster.
Yeah, it's a big old concrete chunk of blah. Colorado is great. It's a beautiful stadium. It's right downtown. Have you been to Minnesota? Have you been to Twins Stadium?
No, I have not been to Target Field yet. My brother-in-law is from Minnesota, and so we're talking about going this summer up to do a little weekend getaway, and of course, we'll make sure we do that. I'm in a mastermind group with some other business owners, and we meet up once a year, and every year they know that I'm trying to do the stadium, so when we pick a location, it's always the stipulation is let's just make sure there's a baseball stadium in the town, and so
awesome.
This year we're going to do Boston, so yeah, it's like we can at least check those off.
The new ballpark in Boston. Yeah, they redid it or revamped it, but they did put up the Green Monster again, so it's still there.
That can't go anywhere. That's a must-have.
No, big old Carl Yastrzemski time. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Craig, this has gone by so quick.
I know it has. It's amazing.
It's been a joy, at least for me.
Yeah, definitely.
I've had a blast. This has been a lot of fun.
Good.
We appreciate you being on the show. Again, how do people get in touch with you? Because I know folks are going to be like,
I need to talk to him. Yeah.
For personal and or business.
Right.
Yes, if you go to dacycoaching.com or you can go to craigdacy.com, they both go to the same place. When you get there, it's going to give you 2 directions you can go, personal finance or profit coaching. And so go there. There's a lot of free resources or a lot of free content, but you can also schedule time on our calendar to just see how we can help you.
Awesome.
That's great.
Oh, Craig, Lynn.
Yes, Darren.
I hate to say it, but we're going to have to go back out in that pollen in a minute.
No?
Oh, no.
Yep. But anyway, folks, I'll tell you what, we appreciate you listening. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with somebody.
Definitely. If it resonates with you and you think it'll help somebody, yeah.
We'd love a review too, but that's not the important part. Share it with somebody,
Please.
and tell somebody who you know probably could use some help with their finances
for sure.
to go to Craig's website. All right. And with that note, Lynn,
we'll see you next week. Yay! Thank you, Craig.
Stay on.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was really fast.